the intellectual attack on Israel is total, right? It's like, oh, your history will attack your history. Oh, your Bible will attack your Bible. Oh, your Judaism, you guys aren't even Jews, right? That's one of the classic attacks. That the people in the Bible, that's not these people today. There's somebody different. And all that is a general attack on Israel. And one of the wings of that attack on Israel is the war on the Bible. My good friend, Rabbi Elie Mischel, has written a book called War on the Bible, the war against the Bible, Ishmael, Esau, and Israel at the End Times. Sounds like a really exciting book. There's a war out there against that conception. We're coming back to the land of Israel. We're making it happen here. The country's good. But then there's people who are like, wait a minute. First thing, Israel's evil. It's taking away other people's land and also has no rights. It's not the people of the Bible. If, let's say, you're a Bible-believing Gentile, well, there's no reason for you to believe that the Israel of the Bible is the Israel of today. Let's watch a video or two about that. This is Nick Fuentes. You heard of this guy?
Yeah, unbelievable, this guy.
Right. But he's very talented. I have to tell you, he's a talented speaker. He's a talented, that's, we always have to watch out those guys that hate Israel. Sometimes they're good looking and they're slick tongued, they're silver tongued. And he lets out a very anti-Israel religious perspective. This time, instead of just saying that the Jews of Israel are not the Jews of the Bible, he's saying that he uses this Christian term, they're the Antichrist. Let's watch this.
Don't take it as a good omen. When you say there's like a theological significance to the Jews retaining their religion ostensibly and then coming back to the Holy Land, I see it as actually a very dark omen because, of course, we talk about Iran's eschatological views about the 12th Imam and the Mahdi and all this. We don't talk about the Jews, which is, in order for them to practice their religion, they need to reestablish temple worship. In order to have temple worship, they need another temple. And this is not exactly a fringe idea in Israel. They talk about sacrificing these red heifers, these perfect red heifers. And then ultimately, one of the goals of the religious Zionists is to take out the mosque, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and rebuild the third temple. And this is sort of terrifying because it undoes what the caller said.
Wait. Before he says what's terrifying, right? I thought he was going to say what's terrifying here is that there's going to be a third world war because the Muslims will flip out. Watch what he says is terrifying about the Jews having a third temple in Jerusalem. This really surprised me. Check this out.
Does what Christ did, which was to destroy the temple because there's a new sacrifice, which is him, the Lamb of God. There's a new temple. There's a new church, new priests. There's a new law. And then they were sent out. Now that they've...
So what he's saying is, right? What he's saying is that the problem is that the replacement theology is being replaced by the original theology. That's what's terrifying, right? Did I say that? All right, let's just finish the video. Let's just finish the video, and then I want to hear your take on it.
Returned. It's almost like it's working in reverse. They've returned to the land. And then, it might point towards maybe they're going to rebuild the temple. And who will inhabit the temple? The Jews say that our religion is dead because Christ is dead, they say. They say their religion is alive and their Messiah is yet to come. Who will inhabit the third temple and sit in the Holy of Holies on the site? It sounds like the Antichrist. So, and this is just sort of my speculation on this. But I mean, I sort of agree in a sense that you can't say it doesn't have theological significance, but I sort of tremble and fear what that represents. I don't see it as a good thing.
Wow. Is that an amazing like revelation? I mean, first thing is, notice the last words right at the end there. I tremble and fear. I'm afraid of the Jewish people's return to the land of Israel. It's scary. It's a let me say it in my language. It's a victory for their theology, not our theology. We thought we replaced them, but they are saying, no, we're not replaced. We're still here. And he's flipping out about that. And this guy from there developed some serious anti-Israel ideas. Some people call them neo-Nazi ideas, right? But it comes from this place of like, we were supposed to replace you. We didn't expect you to come back. Go ahead.
Right. I mean, there's a basic mistake that he's making here, which is he doesn't understand his own religion. Right. Jesus never came. Right. Jesus never came. If you read any of the New Testament, he never came to abolish the law. He never came to abolish the temple. And, Paul, right, one of his top students, really the one who created Christian theology, the Christianity that we know today. It was all from Paul. from Saul of Tarsus, who became Paul. Paul, right? He went and he worshipped in the temple, right? There's nothing in the Gospels that talk about destroying the temple or any of this, right? This is all made up later, and he has no conception that really is not real Christianity. Rabbi Yehuda Leon Ashkenazi, who in my view is one of the great rabbis of modern times. He died about 30 years ago. He was a great French Jewish thinker. He came to Israel, was close friends with Rabbi Tzvi Yehuda Kook. He writes all the time that the day has come where we now need to begin to explain to Christians how to read their own book, right? They don't understand how to read the New Testament. They don't understand the background. They don't understand the Beit HaMikdash, the third temple. They don't understand any of the laws that Jesus was grappling with and struggling with, right? They don't understand any of it. They don't know how to read it. It's astounding, right? So Fuentes is just that's first and foremost, is that his whole theology is broken from the start. That's number one. But yes, your point that he is terrified of us and terrified of what is happening really betrays that there are two groups of Christians today. I think you can divide them not by the standard denominations that we all know, but rather they really divide into two groups. Right? And there are two kinds of Christians today. There are those who can recognize reality. They understand that that the theology they were raised with is debunked, right, and has to be completely rethought, because clearly the people of Israel are the people of Israel, the physical people of Israel. It's not them. We've returned to the land. The prophecies have come true. It's real, right? And they therefore have to completely rethink all of their theology, versus those who are in denial and refuse, and they'll fight it tooth and nail, like Fuentes, like Tucker Carlson, and all of the others, right? So Christians today, it doesn't really matter so much anymore if you're a Catholic, if you're an evangelical, if you're a Reformed Christian, whatever it may be. You have to, if you look at the situation before your eyes, are you honest or are you not? And those who are honest, and I really respect these Christians, because when you reject replacement theology, the ones who are honest and they throw it out, they don't have all the answers anymore for what their Christianity is going to look like. But because they're seekers and they're truth seekers, right? They're willing to do that and to grapple with all of the uncertainties and all of the questions that come from that, because they are unwilling to reject what they see in front of their eyes. And I really respect that. On the other hand, the Christians who are holding on tight to replacement theology, right? It's unbelievable blindness.
Well, I don't know the word blindness. I don't know if I agree with that. He's not blind to it. He's afraid of it. He sees it. It's very real to him. In some ways, he's a believer, right? He sees clearly that the Jewish people are coming back. He sees that there's going to be a third temple. He talks about the Holy of Holies. Like it's very real for him, right? It's like very real for him, but he does not want us to replace his replacement. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want that. And he's scared of that. And then he's therefore, instead of turning to a loving philosophy of seeing what God is doing, he has created a whole mindset that this thing is devilish, which is a classic anti-Semitic trope. That whenever Israel is successful, instead of it being a blessing of God, as the plain text writes it, it is instead a devilish, bedeviled, demonic phenomena, right?
Because there's no other way to look at it. Either it's prophetic, right? Because there's nothing rational about our return. So either it's prophetic, which is obviously what we believe and we see it happening, which is beautiful, right? This is all God's will. But if you can't accept that because you refuse to give up your beliefs, right? Your cherished beliefs, he doesn't want to let go. The only other answer he has is devilish, right? Now, how else do you explain it? It makes no rational sense that we're here.
By the way, speaking of devilish, one more video. There's one, if I had to tell you that there's like one person who just sees everything as devilish, who would that be? If that sees everything Israel is doing as devilish, who would that be?
Oh, man. And it's not Tucker Carlson.
It's not Tucker. It's got to be Candace.
Oh, Candace Owens. Oh boy.
Oh my gosh, she has totally lost the plot, and she like sees us really devilish. Like she not only theologically but historically, she keeps on using the word pedophile having to do with the Jews. What's that about? That's like another form of anti-Semitism. It's like a way to like make everything that we do is like blood laced. You know, like
and it connects to the whole Jeffrey Epstein craziness that's going on, right? You know, a Jew who was some sort of pedophile and trying to, you know, paint all of us with that very same brush. And that's, I think, part of the obsession with Jeffrey Epstein, is that it's an opportunity for these anti-Semites to hit Israel and the Jewish people in some other way. That's part of the obsession.
Right. Here we go.
Commit a Holocaust. And for whatever reason, people...
So she's asking whether...
The larger discussion...
She's asking whether having suffered a Holocaust, we can therefore be allowed to make a Holocaust.
That's happening right now is whether or not having survived a Holocaust gives you the permission to commit a Holocaust. And for whatever reason, people have been, what I would say, milking the Holocaust narrative in the same way that Black Americans were milking the slavery narrative, and essentially saying, like, we lived through this and we survived this, and so now nobody can say that anything we do is wrong. And that's the big issue today, is that we have so many people that will not recognize that it is totally feasible that a Jewish person, and I'm speaking here about Bibi Netanyahu, could do something as horrific as what was done to the Jews throughout World War II or throughout history.
But is that an accurate comparison? I'll tell you why I say that. As we know, I mean, whatever Dan Bilzerian wants people to believe, 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. Another 6 million people were murdered by Hitler and the Nazis. The numbers of people being killed in Gaza are, in my view, have gone way beyond what is acceptable as a response to October the 7th. However, you're still talking about, at the moment, a death toll of under 50,000. There's no comparison in the amount of dead people compared to the Holocaust. So do you understand why?
But it is a Holocaust, what's happening.
Well, is it though?
Yes.
Well, I think language is really important.
I think language is really important as well, and that's
people
why
say Holocaust, genocide.
I think what's happening is a Holocaust. The burning bodies of the children that I'm seeing every day, and we spoke about this a little bit on my show. But I have.
Okay, I think it's clear enough what she's trying to say. You know, she's got the other blood libel. She says pedophile and other things. And then now we're also committing a Holocaust. This is in order to be able to hate Israel religiously and historically. You see in them these acts of evil.
This accusing the people of Israel of all of the evils of our enemies, right, is something very, very deep. Right, Rabbi Ashkenazi talks about this all the time. He says that the very existence of Israel, the very existence of a Jewish nation that is living according to the Bible in some way, right? We're not fully there. We don't have every last Jew living according to the Bible, but a nation, right? The nation that accepted the Bible, that accepted the Torah at Mount Sinai, and is showing all of the nations that it is possible to live in such a moral way according to God's will, is frankly a perpetual slap in the face of all of the other nations. And so the only way that they can deal with this, right, is to try to tear us down and show that not only are we just as bad as them, we're even worse than they are, right? That's their goal here. They're so disturbed by our very existence. And this goes all the way back, as your prior guest was talking about, all the way back to Balak, the king of Moab, and Bilam, what we just read about yesterday in the Torah portion. Right, they had no physical reason to fear from us. We were commanded not to attack Moab, right? Just as Iran today has no physical reason to fear from us. They don't share a border. We've never been aggressive towards Iran. It's simply our existence that drives them crazy, right? Our existence as a nation that can live according to the Bible, and it began with Mount Sinai, and that's why the sages talk about how, you know, literally at that moment, hatred of the people of Israel came into the world, descended into the world, the moment that we accepted the Torah, the Bible, at Mount Sinai.
Have you ever seen, Elie, this kind of hatred though? Like I've been around the block, and this is like different. This is like such a mass with also mass media, right? It's like this moment of TikTok and Instagram, and there's just this like machinery of hate against Jews. I read about it during the time. I've read about how the Nazis used propaganda against the Jews, but we really are victims right now of this mass propaganda. Thank God that we have a Jewish state to defend us and that we're safe here. And thank God that there's many allies as well. By the way, I have to fly out of Israel in a few weeks. We're flying through Greece. It happens to be that Greece is really a pro-Israel country that is allied with us, that is fine. And it's like, it's like, wow, that's funny. Like Greece, Greece and Israel. Yeah, today Greece is an ally, and there are many allies. And for example, there's thousands of people watching right now who are allied with the Jewish people. So there are so many allies. You said there's no option. There's really two options, isn't there? Hate the Jews or drum roll please, love the Jews and bless the Jews.
As I was saying, the Christians are dividing into two groups, and it's really true of all of the nations of the world. This is prophesied. This is what I talk about in the book. If you look at the second chapter of the book of Daniel, where it talks about the four great kingdoms that will rule the earth and persecute the people of Israel before God comes and the final redemption arrives, right? When you read there, you'll see that the fourth kingdom, which is the worst of all, is made up of these two unstable elements, two allies, right? Iron and clay, that join together in their hatred of Israel, but are really unstable because they also hate each other. And it's that, and those allies are, according to Rabbi Sadia Gaon, upon whom I built this entire book, and he's got broad shoulders, are Ishmael and Esau. And each of them hate the people of Israel for different yet similar reasons, right? Ishmael, to begin with him, he came first. Ishmael is a believer in God, right? And we know that the Muslims today believe in God. Even our greatest enemies, the most evil and perverted jihadist Muslims, believe in God. The problem is that they murder and rape in the name of God, right? And how does that happen, right? How do you have people who believe in God? These are the children of Abraham. Ishmael was the son of Abraham. So how do they murder and rape in the name of Allah, in the name of God, right? So the answer is, we're told, right, that he will be a para Adam, a wild ass of a man, right? And how does that happen? Because it's not enough to have Abraham as your father. You also need to have Sarah as your mother. Mm-hmm. Abraham represents belief in God, but Sarah represents the Torah, the Bible, right? It's one thing to believe in God, but you can still be wild and do anything you want in the name of God. Sarah is the one who brought control and boundaries, right? And she therefore represents the Torah. That's what the Torah is, right? If you believe in the Torah, if you accept it upon yourself, right, certainly you can sin. But it's very hard to say that rape, right, in the name of God is somehow okay, right? It's very hard to do that. You can rape, right, but you know that you're a sinner, right? But Ishmael does not accept the Bible. Ishmael only accepts God, right? Only the son of Abraham and not the son of Sarah. And that's right. That's the deep and fundamental problem. And therefore, what does Ishmael hate? The people of the book, right? The people who represent the Torah, the people who represent the Bible. That's why Ishmael hates us, right? But on the other hand, you have the people of Esau, right? What is Esau? Who was Esau? Why did he hate us so much? Why did he hate his brother Jacob? You see, he sells his birthright to Jacob. If you remember that crazy story, right? He's starving, so he sells his birthright for a bowl of soup, right? I always wondered about that. That was my bar mitzvah portion, Like I read that story. What in the world does that mean? Why would anyone sell their birthright for a bowl of soup? But if you read closely there, the sages say, he says that this whole situation was when his grandfather died, Abraham. And everybody was in mourning. His father was in mourning. That's what the soup was for the Shiva house. And so Esau has this like spiritual crisis where he completely rejects God. He says, if Abraham can die, this whole thing is a load of garbage, right? I'm going to die, so therefore I might as well live it up. And so Esau is a different kind of an enemy of Israel. He's not like Ishmael, who believes in God. Esau rejects God altogether. And I think the Esau of our time are the woke progressives, right? So many of these nations around the earth that have rejected God entirely. And what do they also hate? Right? They hate God, but they particularly hate the Bible, right? They hate the Bible, and they have a war against the Bible, right? Because the Bible tells them that there are men and there are women, and they can't just switch at will, right? The Bible tells them that, that the sanctity of human life, and you can't just abort every baby that you want. The Bible tells them that there's good and there's evil, and you can't do everything that you want. And so these people of Esau also hate the Bible. And so Esau and Ishmael come together in this unholy alliance. Iron and clay, they join together in this fourth kingdom that the prophet Daniel was talking about. And that is the great enemy, the great external drama of redemption that the people of Israel and those who stand with Israel, the people who believe in the Bible and respect the Bible, all together have to face these two enemies from either side, right? Ishmael and Esau. So there's something very, very deep that's happening here. It's not just it's not just societal factors that brought this about. We give all sorts of sociological explanations for this hatred, what we're living through today. I think it's actually comforting to know that this is part of prophecy. This is part of God's plan, and this has to happen at the end of time. It's not easy, But when we know that this is meant to be, right, it gives us the strength to deal with it.
And how do you catalog those folks that say, I believe in the Bible, but I don't believe that Israel are the people of the Bible?
Right. So now we're adding in this third element of the woke right and these people like Tucker Carlson. But the truth is, people like that don't really believe in the Bible. It is impossible to believe in the Bible without believing in the people of Israel. Right. They are inseparable. And that's why it's very clear. Right. David talks about this in Psalms, and it's very, very clear that when you attack the people of Israel, you are attacking God. It's one and the same. Right. And therefore, like when we read about the Midianites, right, and how God says that you've got to take vengeance upon them. In the first verse, it says, right, for take vengeance for the people of Israel. And then Moses said, you got to take vengeance for God, right? Because the people of Israel and God, they go together. An attack that's on the people of Israel, if you say that we're not really the Bible, then you don't believe in the Bible itself, right? You're rejecting all the prophecies. You're rejecting all the, right? You're saying maybe you believe in the New Testament, right? But you certainly don't believe in the Hebrew Bible, the foundation of it all, because it's not understandable without the people of Israel.
Look at this, Rabbi Elie. Look at this. This just came in. This person who has a very scary icon also calls himself obscurant. Writes, Israel literally wants the whole world to bow down and let the nation of Israel do anything, even when they kill Semitic people of the region, attack Christians, steal and sell technology, steal land. Gross. You see that? That's instead of seeing Israel as being a force of liberty in the region, a force that defends minorities, a force that does not steal tech but rather develops tech, and liberates land and not stealing land. There's this counter narrative. And this
guy is just Candace Owens with fewer followers. I mean, right. Let's be real. But you know what? This is all just one of the great dramas of redemption, right? There's really two dramas that are happening at the same time, and I think we are remiss if we only focus on all of these psychopaths that can't accept the people of Israel and our return to the land, right? The other drama, and I think you might agree with me on this, perhaps the greater drama is the internal drama of the people of Israel. And this is, something you were talking about with the last guest, how you can have the state of Israel pushing back and fighting the people who are settling the land. How could that be? What is this? What is going on here? Right. So that's the other drama, which I think is equally interesting and equally important and maybe more difficult. That internal drama. That's the drama of are we Jacob or are we Israel? And that also goes back to the book of Genesis, right? Everything that we are dealing with today literally goes back to the very first book of the Bible, which is a blueprint for our time. And Jacob was the man who always ran. He's the father of our people, but he ran away from Esau. He ran away from Lavan, from Laban, right? He was always running. His very name means heel, that he was stepped upon, right? That's one way to live as a Jew. And that's certainly the dominant experience in exile in America today. That's why you find so few American Jews who have the strength of will to stand up and to push back and to fight back against their enemies. And on the other hand, you have Israel, right? At the time when Jacob finally transforms himself and stands up and he fights with the angel all night long, right? Yisrael, ki sarita im Elokim v'tuchal, because you struggled. That's the Jew who fights, who battles. That's the Jew of Judea and Samaria who doesn't give up no matter what happens, right? And what's amazing is that it's not a permanent transformation from Jacob to Israel, right? Abram, his name is changed to Abraham, right? Sarai becomes Sarah, right? And the name is changed permanently. But Jacob, he becomes Israel, but then he becomes Jacob, and then he becomes Israel. He swings back and forth. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's who we are, right? And that's the great internal struggle of the people of Israel. Are we going to be the exiled Jacob? Or are we going to be the people of Israel strong in our homeland, Am Kilavi Yakum, right? The nation that rises up like a lion, right? Are we heels or are we lions? And that's the great internal struggle of Israel that's summarized in about 3 minutes.
And that struggle is very acute today, 17th of Tammuz, which is a day that commemorates when Moses had to break the tablets with the 10 Commandments. So that was like a dark moment for us. And yet the prophet tells us that this day is going to be turned into a joyous day, where even that process of breaking with God, of messing up through redemption, through tshuva, through doing repentance, will come about a great day. By the way, I was thinking to myself, do the other religions, do they have a lot of like days where they commemorate their screwing up? I'm not sure they do. We've got these days where like we screwed up.
Right. The whole idea of screwing up is tied up with the idea of return, of tshuva, right? And that's something that only we have, right? You don't have a concept like that really in Christianity, that you can return and completely, turn the darkness into light. That doesn't really exist, right? They believe that they're sinners from the start, and there's nothing you could do to change that. And therefore, the only way you can get to heaven is to believe in Jesus or whatever. We don't believe that, right? We believe, we can screw up, and and certainly we are an infuriating people to God, I'm sure, on the one hand, because we've been messing up for so long. But on the other hand, we're the people that never gives up and never stops. And so the idea that we can return, that we can make right, I think is bound up with the brokenness of today. And so that's why I just think it's incredible that we're unafraid to be so clear about our failures. It comes from, I think, from a very deep self-confidence, because we know that the day is coming when we'll achieve that fixing, and we will be Israel and not Jacob forever.
Amen. And I think it also comes from emet, from truth, from being able to be truthful. And this world today needs so much of a shot of infusion of truth. We live in a time where, as the rabbis warned us, the Messianic period would be one in which truth would be very hard to find, very lacking. Today, with Candace Owens and with AI making up stuff, truth is hard to find. And having truthfulness, looking inward, finding fault, fixing it, and returning to the land and taking it up as our rightful inheritance is a blessing for the world, a blessing of truth. Rabbi Elie Mischel, you are the Director of Education at Israel 365, former head rabbi at Congregation Suburban Torah in Livingston, New Jersey, and now author of an excellent book that a lot of people are talking about called The War Against the Bible, Ishmael, Esau, and Israel at the End Times. Thank you so much for being with us. Toda rabah.
Thanks so much for having me. And if anybody would like the book, you can find it. It's actually on sale right now at Israel365store.com.
You got it. Absolutely. Check it out. Great stuff. And other great books there.